Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to this Arsenal versus West Ham preview. And I hope you guys are doing well. London is right now really sunny out there. Very good weather to go out and do some stuff, and a good weekend for football. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what you guys are up to this weekend. And obviously, we have the game tomorrow. That's going to be a huge, massive game. I think in many ways, I think people are downplaying the importance of this game to West Ham. By all accounts, top six probably isn't over for West Ham, and nobody wants to be in this European continental competition. Nobody wants to be there. It's not good for anybody. So I think that West Ham, although they have bigger fish to fry, I do agree that they're going to be looking at the bigger picture, which is the Europa. And for me, um, it might go a long way into sort of saying what the result of this game is going to be, because everyone's just saying, yeah, West Ham, they're not going to bring nothing to the table. They're dead food. It's Arsenal, really. It's all about Arsenal. And yeah, I think it gives Arsenal the advantage in terms of us having top four to play for. It's a win-win for everybody, to be honest. If Arsenal beat West Ham can better prepare for the Europa game, and Arsenal can sort of move on and push on to Leeds for that top four position, and then Spurs. So I think it's kind of healthy for everybody. But most important thing is it's definitely going to be an advantage to Arsenal. There's no two ways about it. The result here is going to be a long way into sort of saying how well Arsenal can do by putting the players out on the field that they want to be a part of, and how West Ham is going to be resting players. So let's take a look at that. Outside of that, big shout out to all of you guys as per usual. So the game is going to be played in the London Stadium, Premier League Sunday afternoon, London Stadium. Come on, man. They can't even call it West Ham Stadium because they don't belong to West Ham. That's got to be the cheapest deal ever in football history. The fact that they're paying less than 5 million a season to use that stadium, it's just like, I don't get it, guys. I don't get it. But anyway, it's they play host to Arsenal. West Ham have lost 33 Premier League games to Arsenal. That's more than anyone in their history. When you look at in terms of their win and loss record, Arsenal's a team that does them over and over again. They lost 2-1 against Frankfurt in the first leg of the Europa League semi-final midweek, while the Gunners saw off Man United after their impressive win against Chelsea. So, like I said, the talk of the town is that West Ham's going to be dropping players. We know that Diop's got an ankle injury, I believe, and Angelo Abona has a knee problem, so he's going to be sidelined. But I've been saying this all along, guys. When they entered this season, I said West Ham don't have a squad to compete in the Europa, because the fact that you're a team that's used to playing once every week, and now you're in Europe, you've got to play twice every week, and that brings a lot of problems to the setup, and some teams struggle with that. And now we're seeing the fact that they've got a crisis at centre back, they've got both centre backs out. They've got 2, sometimes 3 games a week now because of Europe, and they're struggling with it. And you know what? It is what it is. I can't really say anything outside of the fact that you should have been prepared for this in the summer. You should have known what was going on and sort of worked your way through it. So, look, man, I can't really say anything else outside of the fact that David Moyes has not dealt with the bench players very well. He hasn't really brought in any help. So for me, guys, West Ham don't have a big enough squad to deal with playing in Europe. And that's why there will be some changes to keep their starting players fresh. Big shout out to all of you guys. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Shout out to everybody on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Now, West Ham have beaten Arsenal in just 2 of their last 27 league matches. That's what I'm saying, guys. It's been 5 draws and 20 losses. And I think they're unbeaten in the last 6 home games, so let's give West Ham credit. But can you see them beating Arsenal this weekend? There's a strong possibility that's a no. Because as I said, West Ham are one of the teams that are having to drop players just to deal with what's going on in Europe. However, West Ham have scored in every one of their Premier League home games this season. So that's the reason why, a prediction of 2-1 to Arsenal might be on the cards, because West Ham will do a good job of finding the back of the net. Now, for Arsenal, guys, Arsenal once again in control of the driving seat of the Champions League. They're 2 points ahead of Tottenham in 4th place. And Arsenal have won 19 Premier League games, which is already surpasses the 18 games that we won last season. So in terms of our set aside, I remember last season, my God, remember last year, Arsenal-West Ham, guys, and West Ham went 3-0 up. And it just shocked everybody. It was like there weren't no fans in the stadium, obviously, because of COVID. But the way Arsenal came back into the game, you have to give credit to the Gunners, because they didn't give up. It was 3-0 down. They could have just canned it in and dropped their heads low. Lacazette had a deflected goal. They had a deflected shot. The shot was actually going off target, if you guys don't remember. And it took a deflection, went into the back of the net. Respect to Arsenal for the comeback, but I remember as well, Pepe played a big role in the comeback as well. He put the cross in that led to an own goal from West Ham, and then Lacazette, and then he played a cross in that went into Lacazette for Lacazette to head in the equaliser. But the one thing I remember out of that game, is Aubameyang's contribution to that game was celebrating Lacazette's equaliser. That was the biggest contribution he made in that game. I remember he had a 1 out of 10 grading for that game, did Aubameyang. I mean, he was absolutely awful. He was terrible in that game. And that wasn't even this season. That was last season. So you can see like all those tropes and problems had been happening from a long time ago with Aubameyang. So I do remember that. That really stuck out big time for me. But Arsenal's midfield, guys, is something which we've been talking about now. The midfield has looked terrible without Thomas Partey this season. But with El Nene being included, he's fielding admirably for, Thomas Partey alongside Granit Xhaka. And he should be starting again. There's no two ways about it. Him and Eddie Nketiah have brought a lot into the starting 11. And both players will be fielding against West Ham tomorrow. And maybe I might see Smith Rowe being dropped for Martinelli. Martinelli's pace and directness against a weakened West Ham defense, I think, will probably play a big part too. I think that's going to be very important for us to get a 1-up on the result. And for me, guys, I think Saka will be fit despite all the problems that he limped off after 74 minutes against Man United. And we know Partey and Tierney, they're both not going to play again this season. Arteta talked about that in his conference and saying a Partey, it ain't going to happen. And it's a shame because that was one of the things I was keeping my fingers crossed on, the fact that he might come in and do a number there. But like I said, ain't going to happen. I think the fact that we've just got Tomiyasu back as well, I wouldn't start him. It's just something I wouldn't do. I'd bring him off the bench with probably 15 to 20 minutes left just to make sure that he's still sort of game ready and just to warm him up to get him back into Premier League football. He only had 5 or so minutes the other day, and look what happened. Ronaldo chopped him and ended up getting booked. But that is just something, that was just 5 minutes of play where he got chopped. Yeah, Tomiyasu just got slashed after the 5 minutes of play. So you got to think in the whole world of him coming back and not causing any setbacks, that you'd like to give him 10 or 15 minutes. So I wouldn't come out. I'd be shocked if Tomiyasu started in this game. But the big talk, guys, is Mohamed El Nene. When you look at, I mean, I know there's been talk about player of the month and Granit Xhaka and all that. I don't agree at all. Well done to him. He's been outstanding in the last 2 games. But where was he in the 3 losses before? He was awful. El Nene didn't play in those 3 losses before. El Nene was man of the match against Chelsea. And in my opinion, he was man of the match against Man United. And I also, let me get the poll. Shall I get the poll up from you guys? Let me have a look. Let me get the poll up, because I did put the poll up to say who was man of the match against the Man United. And I'm just checking here to see what you guys said. Where are we now? Man of the match. Here we go. Right. Yeah. Okay. So I can actually show you guys this. Let me just take a screenshot of it so that I can put it up on the screen here. Let's do that so that we can talk about what you guys said. That's very important to get you guys' input as always. So we will have a look at that. And here it is. Let's get this up on here and see what you guys said. Who was the man of the match against who was the man of the match against Manchester United? So let's just swap that out, shall we? Let's go here. And let's put this up. So who was the man of the match against Man United in our 3-1 home win? 88 of you voted. 17% said Odegaard. 13% said Saka. 43% of you said Elneny. And then 27% said Xhaka. So you can see, I know that there's this narrative going around that Xhaka won Player of the Month. I don't think he done enough to win. I mean, as I said, the first 3 games, much like everybody else, he was atrocious, and he had 2 good games. But in those games against Chelsea and Man United, I actually think Elneny played better than Xhaka in those 2 games. So if I was to give it to anybody, I think Elneny deserves it more. But in what we've seen from the fans, the consensus from the fans is that Elneny obviously was the better player. So let's talk about him a little, shall we? Let's talk about how we've been able to turn this around with our Egyptian monster of a player. Well, I've always said to everybody, when Wenger bought him, and this is really key, when Wenger bought him, we signed him from Basel. Remember, it was January, it was a new year, and supporters were a little underwhelmed because, but Wenger always had a great eye for talent, and sometimes it hadn't worked out, but sometimes it did. And he saw something in Elneny, it piqued his interest. And Wenger actually had a statement. I wonder if I can get that statement up. Yeah, I should be able to get that statement up for you so that we can all have a look at this statement at the same time. Now, and then we can actually talk about it. So Wenger, in this statement, when he bought Elneny, Wenger said he can be box to box, can be a holding midfielder, so that that is for us very promising. We wanted a versatile player. I wanted a player who can play defensive, but can also play well, box to box as well. His strengths are his technical level, his vision, his intelligence, his discipline. Remember, let's talk about the bookings as well. How many times have you seen him get booked? His attitude, his physical attitude to compete at the highest level. And I think he has the physical qualities to play at the top level. Where he needs to adapt is to the challenges, the force needed in the Premier League to survive. I think that that could demand a little bit of adaptation. But overall, I think he has all the attributes to do well. So that was when we bought him. Years later, and what have we learned? We learned that when Emery came in, he absolutely killed him. He played them at left back. He played them at centre back. He played them at wing back at a couple of games. It was just like, this guy's a central midfielder used to dominate games. And the fans got frustrated with it because he's not good in any of those positions. And the player got frustrated with it. And what that meant was that he handed in a loan request because he wanted out of there. He wanted nothing part of Emery because he saw that Emery didn't appreciate him as a central midfield player. When he was on loan, he was very impressive on that spell. And Arteta saw that and then wanted him back in the team. Now, all we've seen from this is that, and you guys have to remember, at that point when Wenger bought him, Matthew Firmini, Mikel Arteta, and Rosicky were coming to the end of their contracts before, and then they came into the team. So without him in the team, Elneny brings a lot to the team. When Thomas Partey was injured and we had Xhaka and Partey, when we had Xhaka and Sambi in the middle, our midfield looked out of position, dysfunctional, and just didn't have the energy. And El Nene brings huge reserves of energy. I mean, he's able to cover a vast amount of the pitch in any given game, and he doesn't lose possession. So we talk about, again, his qualities. We've gone from having, we're used to someone like Xhaka losing the ball a lot, misplaced passes, giving it away. Remember, he's led the Premier League 5.6 passes lost to the opposition. He's also, Xhaka led the Premier League in mistakes been leading to goals and red cards. So when you think about all those different phases where we've struggled, El Nene comes in and he has none of those traits. He doesn't give the ball away. He has the highest percentage of passing accuracy among all of our midfielders. He doesn't get booked, so no red cards. He doesn't make mistakes leading to goals. It just doesn't happen with him. And all these different things, it's the basic principle of pass and move. When he gets the ball, he keeps it. He moves it along, and there's that simple level of build-up play, and it means that the team can move the ball in transition much easier when you have someone like that. So I do want to address one thing, guys. I do want to address one thing, which is Arsenal fans talking about sideways and backwards, yeah, and trying to paint over how bad passing sideways and backwards seems. It's almost like they're saying it's negative football. So let me bring you a principle. It's not negative football. If you look at the top teams who play possessional football, like Man City, like Barcelona, like Bayern Munich, all of their midfielders have the ability to pass the ball sideways and backwards. It's the basic principles of possessional football, something which Arsenal have a lot of problems with. Arsenal are not a good team keeping the ball at their feet in the middle of the park. It's something we've talked about for years. The solution is someone like him who has that ability to cover a lot of ground. And most importantly, there's two things here. Most importantly, get open in the middle of the field. Now, a lot of midfielders struggle with the athletic side of it. They don't get open enough to receive the ball. El Nene does. I think that's one of the biggest differences between Xhaka and El Nene, is that El Nene never stops running. He has a very high motor, and he's always there to receive the ball. And that way he can get the ball, keep it, and move it on. One of the misconceptions about moving the ball forward is this. When you have a forward like Lacazette, who doesn't get open, doesn't make a lot of runs beyond the line, isn't there as an option, doesn't drop back enough into the midfield to help you win the ball back, then you then are in a situation where the ball cannot go forward. It doesn't matter who you have in the midfield, whether it's Odegaard, whether it's Xhaka, whether it's Partey, or whether it's El Nene. If you have a front line that isn't, busy, is not always moving, then you're going to struggle. And if you notice something, that since El Nene has been in there, there's one player that has been replaced in a forward line that is busy, that is constantly running, that does, have the level of movement that we need. And that's Eddie Nketiah. So I think both go in tandem. The reason why you're seeing El Nene as a player now who's moving the ball forward and is very progressive is because he's actually got a target to hit in Eddie Nketiah. Whereas before that, not just Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey has always had that link up with Odegaard, and then it's been rested on Odegaard's shoulders to move the ball in transition. And he normally does that with Saka. That's why that right-hand movement and overlap and triangles is so powerful in the team. But when you look on the left side, we don't really have that. And that's the reason why it's not just El Nene, but people like Xhaka as well, and Sambi, who have played on that left side in the midfield, have always had a problem moving the ball forward in transition. So now that we have Nketiah to receive the ball in space, El Nene's got a lot more options to put the ball forward. So there's a lot of misconceptions in the fan base that El Nene is this type of negative player that plays sideways and backwards, and that couldn't be far from the truth. As I said, you do need to go sideways and backwards in able to maintain possession, which the top teams in Europe also do. But you never hear their midfielders get chastised by it. And they also, those teams, have forward players that they can hit in stride, whereas Arsenal have just not really been like that. So I just wanted to clear that up about the player to let you know that's always been in his locker. But it's not just him, but other midfielders that we have also struggled to move the ball forward at pace because we just haven't had a target. And, you know, a lot of that falls on Lacazette because of that. And maybe some of that falls on Aubameyang as well, being out on the left-hand side and not really being an option as well in transition. So, guys, overall, I think that I think Arsenal will. I think they're probably favour him, and 2-1 to Arsenal would be a positive result for us, and I think that is something that would be important to us making that stride to top 4. But Singh says there was a moment in the past. There was a moment, yeah, because when Wenger had him, Wenger was playing him how he thought he would play, and then Emery ruined him. Cool K said, what's interesting is that West Ham only made 1 substitution in their game. Really weird when you consider, you know, they assumed that they wanted to be rested. Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird as well. I thought that it was really strange that they didn't move the ball in the way that they were trying to sort of have had those substitutions and rest players. Normally you would see that. Normally in the 70th, 75th minute in the Premier League game, really, you'd see players start to come off, and they didn't really do that. Singh also says El Nene isn't great, but he does the job, and that's all you ask for a squad player. Yeah, I don't think anybody would say he's great. Yeah, as I read before when I talked about Wenger talking about his attributes, I think he has attributes which are very effective in terms of his ability to be tidy, to play possessional football and not give the ball away, not throw the team under the bus by getting booked on red cards and things like that. He's a very adept player. I wouldn't use the word great like yourself, but I would use that he's a very adept player. And sometimes we've talked about certain players, you know, in the past. We've talked about Lacazette, we've talked about Xhaka, we've talked about carrying players who are not doing enough in the team. And we've talked about Cedric as well. We've talked about Tavares. We've talked about having to struggle carrying players in a certain team. El Nene is a guy who you're not going to carry. El Nene is a guy who's going to make himself accountable. He's going to be an asset to what you're doing in the team, and he's not going to throw the team under the bus. Also, your thoughts on Cedric leaving? Pretty sad, because I've always rated him as a solid player, and I've always thought that he's been adapted. And there was that 7-game stretch where he's been pretty good, and he's shown you that he can. But you know, his last 2 games he's been awful. But we can say that for you when you talk about Brighton, Southampton, and Crystal Palace, you can literally say that most players have been atrocious of late. And the revival in the last 2 games has really put a lot of players into the fray. But with Cedric, I think Cedric should, you know, as a backup right player to Tomiyasu, I think he's adapted, and I think that he's someone who could stay. Unfortunately, he might not, but it's a shame because there's a good player in there, and he's definitely, in my opinion, you know, the reason why you see him take set pieces. I know some people are complaining, but you don't have anybody on the ball on that side who can deliver across in the way that he can deliver it. That's one of his assets. If you talked about the players on the left, which is Tavares and Turney, and the players on the right, which is Tomiyasu and Cedric, if I was to say out of those 4 players who delivers the best cross into the box, it would be Cedric. It would easily be Cedric. I wouldn't even think twice about saying that it would be anybody else. I would definitely say it's Cedric. So, as I said, guys, we'll have a look at the team sheet now and see who we think is going to play. Singh also says, who would you want as a replacement if he leaves? That's a difficult one, because before we were talking about Lamptey and Max Aarons and things like that. And what Tomiyasu shows you is having a tall 6'2" player gives you so much options, man. It gives you options against set pieces. It gives you options about playing the ball out from the back, whether you want to go high. Ramsdale loves to go high to Tomiyasu. We've missed that. We haven't really had that in transition. So I do like Max Aarons. Look, I mean, Norwich has been nowhere this year, and nobody's really sort of snapped him up. He's someone that can be adapt. But I think as well is there's other players in Europe that will also do well there. But again, I'd like to see Cedric stay. That's just me. I do like Cedric as a player, especially as a squad player. And we're going to need a squad player. We're going to need options, because if you're losing players like that, You're going to have to find replacements. Kuke says, I hear Rice is demanding either to play centre-back or be benched for our game. Clearly does not want to be the next midfielder to get embarrassed by King Mohamed El Nene. Can't say I blame him. Yeah, I don't even know why they're playing Declan Rice if you've got the Europa game, but, you know, whatever it is, whatever will be, will be. I think it's a weird one myself, I really do. But, yeah, it's a weird one. But, guys, looking at the team sheet, I think West Ham are going to be going with probably Fabianski. They're going to be going with Kofel, Johnson, and they're going to be Zuma, Cresswell, Rice, Souček, Malenka. They're going to go with Valicic. They're going to go with Benrahma, and they're going to go with Antonio. So it's not a lightweight team. And it's not a lightweight team at all. And some of those players that I've listed may be rested. Antonio may be rested. Souček might be rested. I mean, we don't know who's going to be rested there. But don't be surprised if 2 or 3 of those names that I've mentioned there are not going to play. Yeah. For Arsenal, very interesting one for Arsenal. I think the possible starting lineup is going to be, let me get rid of El Nene there and put back up the banner. Too much, tons of love for El Nene on this preview. Tons of love for El Nene. I think we're going to go with Ramsdale. I would go with Cedric. I would not go with Tomiyasu. I wouldn't do that right now. I would go with Ben White and Gabriel, and I'll stick with Tavares. There's something in there, guys. And if you listen to Arteta's conference on Friday, he talked about having the patience to sort of take the good with the bad. We saw he scored his goal for Arsenal. Well done, broke his duck. And he's in those advanced positions as well. I do like Tierney because Tierney gets forward, but does Tierney get that much forward? This guy picked up a loose ball, which was saved by the goalkeeper. He was right in there for the tap-in. And I'm not sure that Tierney scores that goal. On the flip side of it, Tierney is a better shooter than this guy. And there's one move where Tavares, he beats a defender, cuts in, and he just skies the ball. The chance is there for you to go postage stamp right in top left of the post, which you know Tierney can do. Tierney can do that. Tierney has a really good shot, and he gets his shot on target. For Arsenal. Tavares is all over the place, but these are things that you can work on. And I think now we're weighing the scales, guys. We're weighing the scales. If you can get some good with the bad, then it's worth doing. If you're just getting bad, then no. It's a liability. You can't afford it, and just don't play him. You know, the flip side of this is you can play Tomiyasu and then put Cedric at left back. So there are options. I just think that the way things are now is that because the thing about this is, guys, if you take Tavares out there, you're breaking the team. And then when you broke the team, in other words, if you put Xhaka at left back or you do something like that, you've then got the problem in midfield to solve. So you're dealing with one problem by creating another. And I think that we saw that against Palace, and we saw that against Brighton and Southampton when we used Xhaka at left back. You created more problems than you needed. That was essentially so. By playing Tavares, you're dealing with one problem instead of dealing with 2, and I think that you're limiting your issues by playing him there. And I think Arsenal fans need to sort of understand that. Let's not create more problems by trying to solve others. And I think that's the reason why Tavares is playing. On the flip side of that, guys, in the midfield with Xhaka and El Nene, bookends, they stay as they are. Both players are in fine form. So let's just go with them as is. Moving forward, I did say Martinelli. I prefer Martinelli in this one because of the problems that West Ham have in defence. And I just think that Martinelli will get at you a little bit more than Smith Rowe. In saying that, though, Smith Rowe is the polished player coming into box, getting on the end of things late. I just think building up to that, Smith Rowe doesn't offer you a lot. Smith Rowe's not been, in terms of build-up play, Smith Rowe's not been very good of late. And Martinelli can do that for you. Both players have been struggling. Yeah, it's a toss-up every week, guys. Every time we talk about Smith Rowe and Martinelli, it's a toss-up between what's not working at the moment. Neither player is on form. And I know Smith Rowe scored last week, and you get that. You can get that out of him. I think that's really good. But I think in terms of transitional non-creativity, I think Martinelli gets the nod there. So for this one, I would go with Martinelli. And then you're going to go with Saka. You're going to go with Odegaard, who's been in fine form lately as well. And then Nketiah up top. Most importantly, Nketiah, very, very good 2 games is coming off the back of. We know what he did at Chelsea with the 2 goals. Fantastic display. And Man United, I see some people talking about when he had a shot saved from De Gea. But there's 2 things you're not talking about there. One, Ronaldo had a chance before that and he skied it over the bar. Yeah. So what I'm saying in this regard is Nketiah is in the right places at the right time. He's making those runs. If you saw the through ball being played by Odegaard to Nketiah, Nketiah is making those runs to be in those positions. That is key. That means he's a threat. Yeah, that means he's a threat. Number 2, he's getting his shots on target. Yeah, sure, this one was straight at the goalkeeper, but the next one where he was slightly caught offside, he wasn't. He beat the goalkeeper. He put the ball on the left-hand side. So with Eddie in there, you've got a chance to score. That's the key. So regardless what he's doing there, Eddie's in the right place. Eddie's hitting the target. Eddie's being a threat. That's what we need. So we have to continue doing that. Because like I said before, if you played him in 26 games in the league like you did Lacazette, how many goals would Eddie have scored for you? From the outfield. More than 2. He got 2 goals in 1 game, which is exactly the same outfield goals as Lacazette all season. So when it comes to things like that, let's not be fickle in our feedback. Let's not complain about the littlest things, because Eddie's in there and he's doing a job that we're asking him to do. So let's get behind the player and support him, because what he's bringing us is a different level. Remember I talked about El Nene's ability to play the ball forward and be better in transitional play, be more assertive in his play, rather than the sideways and backwards. He's doing that because Eddie's giving him a target. Yeah, Eddie's making those runs. So big shout out to everybody there, and that would be my main forte. Good afternoon, all. I don't know who that is because you haven't signed the waiver on Facebook, but good afternoon to you. Singh says, yeah, great point on Nuno. And a Facebook user says, I think Tavares is a bit more varied in the final third, and it seems to be to find the player over Kieran Tierney is more of a seasoned player, better defender, and plays him more in control. I think the most important thing about that, and this is something that me and Vincey talked about, is that we've looked so much better. Oh, it's Kez. All right, nice one, Kez. You know what's good about that, Kez, is me and Vincey have talked about how this team has looked so much better in a back 3 than in a back 4. And a back 3 allows someone like Tavares to not have defensive duties. It allows him to be more of a wing-back so he can use his attacking prowess to cause defenses trouble. And that's something which I think is an advantage. It's not a disadvantage. I think playing him in a back 4 and giving him the defensive responsibilities, I think that hurts his game. I really do. I mean, I know he's 19 going on 20, and I know we're still trying to figure him out. But from what I've seen in his game, he's more suited to be a wing back rather than a left back, in my opinion. So I hope that's something that Arteta is looking at him and developing and growing and things like that. But that's something I definitely think there's something there with this kid. At the moment, he's raw, he's rash, he's a liability, but there is something there with this kid, and I'm willing to invest and develop this kid in order to see what he has moving forward. Singh says Martinelli would help you. Yeah, he would, because if there's one thing we saw, Smith Rowe didn't really give Tavares a lot of defensive cover. Especially against Chelsea, he didn't really help him out as much. Whereas Martinelli is going to come back and help, try to win the ball back. He's going to give you that help in terms of coming back and defending, and that's something that we need. So yeah, that's a great point, Singh. That's another reason why we should probably start Martinelli against West Ham. It also says Lacazette doesn't even get into those. Yeah, and even against Chelsea, the 2 goals that Nketiah scored, Lacazette ain't scoring them. He's not scoring them goals, guys. He's just not scoring those goals. So I think I think we have to be thankful and grateful for what we have in the situation that we're in. But let's not discount this. This is something that we have to understand as well. Leicester City are also playing in the Europa, and they too will be resting players. And maybe that might give some inspiration to Spurs. Just as much as it's going to help us out against West Ham, I think it will also help out Spurs. So we have to be careful there because it's like a double-edged sword, and Tottenham need that more than we do because they ain't had a shot on target in the last two games. So I think that they need it more than we do. So that's something which is really striking for them. So it's really good. So this would be my lineup, guys. G, good to see you, G. G says you can't argue with effective in the role we want him. He might be talking about Elneny here. Keep him around for that. He'd not cause any issues and invest in the money in. So that's a good point. So he's saying that we should re-sign Elneny because we need to because if we get a replacement, that's going to cost us more money, etc., etc., etc. And the money needs to be used in more key areas. So that's a great point. Singh says 0 shots on target in the last 2 games, but you don't know what you get with Spurs. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Song and Kane have broken a Premier League record in goals and assists between 2 attacking players. And then they give you games like this where you don't get nothing for both of them for 2 games. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? We complain when we don't turn up for 1 game or, but we're the youngest team in the league. You can take that with a pinch of salt with Arsenal. But when Spurs do it, that's not acceptable for someone like Spurs because they've got the quality in there to facilitate all of that. Yeah. So for me, that's something where Arsenal will get away with that, but Spurs, no, you can't let them off with something like that. G says definitely good that West Ham have something to play for in the second. Yeah, because had West Ham had lost 3-0 or 3-1 or 4-1 or something like that, then it would be a write-off. So I agree with you that they do have something to play for, and that would be used for us for our advantage. So, guys, overall, I'm going to go with 2-1 Arsenal. What's your predictions? What are you looking at there? Where would you see in terms of Arsenal against West Ham? What would be your results? Let's see them starting to come in now. What your predictions are. G is saying that he would go with 2-0 to Arsenal. Cool K is going with a 3-1 to Arsenal. 3-1 to Arsenal. Man, I wish Pepe was playing. I wish Pepe was... why isn't Pepe in there, man? You guys are hurting me on this. I want to see some Pepe, man, and I want to see him start a game. And you know what? We talk about the left-hand side, guys, Martinelli and Smith Rowe. Why don't you put Pepe on the left? On the left-hand side. Why don't you put Pepe on the left? I would just bun both of them. I would bun Smith Rowe, bun Martinelli, and put Pepe on the left. 18 is going with 3-0 Arsenal. 3-0 Arsenal. That's a decent score. And Singh is going with 2-0 Arsenal. So, yeah, nice. I like that. I do like that. So, guys, listen, that's a preview for today. Tomorrow, I don't know whether we're going to be live streaming the watch along because it's my daughter's 21st and we're going to be in the city at dinner. So I'm not sure I'm going to stream that game. I might stream some of it. I might do the first half and then see where we go with that. But we'll have to wait and see. But thank you guys for joining us for this preview. And yeah, big game tomorrow. Every game is a big game now. 5 games to go. And we'll have to see where we go from that. Good talking to you guys as well today about Elneny. We really got a good in-depth look of what Mohamed Elneny is all about. And we had to deal with some misconceptions with the player as well. So if you're coming in late to the stream, just hit the rewind button and go into that and then enjoy yourself. So see you guys later, man. Peace out and see you tomorrow. Nice one, guys.